Just call me Zaddy because I'm about my business. And today we will be talking about pressure. Under pressure. And how pressure is a really oppressive force when it comes to our interactions and daily life, and how we perpetuate these systems that we are so viscerally and organically against. So let's dive into it, shall we? So, if the work that we're doing is all about accessing a place of personal freedom and sovereignty, where does pressure fit into the mix? If we are here developing ways to live with more intention, to create a more conscious lifestyle and living arrangement, to create and build and carry out these beautiful living systems, we've got to stop trying to control the situation. So, when it comes to pressure, in the ways that I experience it, it's like being on call. Whether or not we're putting pressure on ourselves or putting pressure on another person because we have an attachment or a need or a space that we would like some validation, where we would like for someone to assign us the value because we're not sure what we're worth. Or maybe there's something there that we could work on in order to do a little self-evaluation in determining our worth and what we have to offer. And maybe there's something there that's sticking in our craw because we are not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable enough to see it. So, in my work, I absolutely refuse to be on call because I am working on taking my time. I am practicing in finding my rhythm, dancing to the beat of my own drummer, allowing my universe to exist within this multiverse, attempting my best to not tug on the strings of others, out of their own time, out of the rhythm that they're seeking, in order to be in harmony in this beautiful interdimensional universe that we exist in. Don't attempt to conduct my section of this beautiful symphony. Allow me to exist and to heal and to process and to be responsible for my own time. That is accountability. How beautiful, right? Bringing it all back together. Love it. So no matter what our interaction is based in, whatever type of relationship exists between you and another person, me and another person, me with myself, you with yourself, it's time to pause. To take a precious divine pause, allow ourselves to catch up with our resources, our breath, our energy, our consciousness, our psyche, our intuitive nature, that feeling that allows us to express and experience. To step into our time, to be able to meet with one another, and not to pressure someone to meet our needs without then accepting that perhaps they have needs also to be met, whether that involves time, space, or any other type of resource. So when we do express ourselves, be prepared and be willing to hold space for another to be responsible for enough to express their needs as well. This is all about balance. It goes back into balance. And if we are at a place where we are not able to reach equilibrium, then we must allow ourselves to let that situation go. We must allow ourselves to not become the oppressor or the oppressed within a situation, perpetuating these systems that we are opting out of. And in order for us to truly opt out of them, we must be willing to examine our hand in maintaining them. We're all wrong here. And that's okay, as long as we're willing to adapt. As long as we're willing to be self-aware enough to put ourselves on the line for some self-examination. Being responsible and accountable for ourselves. Instead of creating more attachments, because we're then seeking to entangle others, to entrain our timelines, thus limiting our potential. And in the realm of quantum physics, quantum entanglement makes it difficult to be able to identify one particle from another. They become almost indistinguishable. And that's why we end up creating labels. But I will say with this, there's something in that. Because while labels do separate us, and they are used in a way to distinguish us when we're in the midst of some extreme and deep entangled situations, systems, problematic forces, problematic pressures. We create labels in order to attempt to distinguish ourselves instead of acting in a way that is distinguishable. Because again, we fear that path and where it may lead us and what it may lead us away from or toward. So yeah, pressure. But one thing that I've noticed is that there are people who will also jump on the bandwagon of moving away from labels. But pause and take time to process. Process the various perceptions. Process the energy that's there. Be resourceful with what is there. And listen to it. Hear it out. For there are those of us who are seeking to drop labels in order to not be called out. And there are those of us who seek to drop labels in order to enter a place of equity, of true connectivity and accountability. So, again, are we doing this to protect ourselves, or are we doing this to be more open, to expand? That is what reaching for, like moving into expansiveness and space and holding space is all about. Because protection has been manipulated to seem like a force that creates a separation. It is a force that allows us to be distinguishable within the whole. To initiate something different. And for a long time, I really was upset with the concept of being an outsider, with being on the fringe, and doing things. It made me feel like an imposter. It makes me feel like an imposter when I have to step in and rush in order to meet someone's needs when I'm not available for them, when I am acting out of disrespect for myself and putting someone else's needs before mine. That is not love, although that is the concept of love that we were given, to give and take. But what is that third element? The gravity, the pressure, that force. What type of force are we exerting on those that we love? I was doing an exploration through the tarot with the concept of the lovers, and I played with that word, and I played with the sound of it. I played lover, 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 and lever comes to mind. A lever, something in which you allow things to kind of prop up, or, something that exists on a fulcrum. And again, this goes back to balance, the beautiful balancing act, that rhythm, that flow, the wavelength, the frequency, all of that, vibration. And so thinking about love, lover, and lever, and how we're missing an element in our concept of love, that give and take. So we enter this kind of, we look at this object of our affection or our obsession, and we lift it higher than us. We play the superiority, inferiority, hierarchical type of complex based through our definition of love. And that is one reason why many of us have an aversion to the concept of love and light. Because all we know about love is either you're up or you're down. Where is that equality? Where is that equity? Where is that balance? It's in the force. May the force be with you. And so when we bring pressure into the picture, we are telling someone to put on a performance. The show must go on, and it must go on now. You are on call, get on stage right now. I need you to act for me. Entertain me. We are entrained, you must entertain. And I will not stand there. I will not stand that. I will not stand that. And neither should you. Whether you're doing that to yourself or another person, or someone's doing that for you, you take your time. You find your rhythm. You become a distinguished entity, divine. Sorry, I hit the stop button. So are we lifting ourselves up? Are we lifting others up? Are we pushing others down in order for ourselves to be lifted up? Or can we all stand together in balance and in fairness and in equity, allowing everyone to be distinguishable without being chastised or ostracized or alienated, without being attacked? Allow connections to happen organically. Deprogram, decondition ourselves. Allow ourselves to step out of the algorithm, out of automation. Create living systems. Those in which we can be responsible and accountable without any fear. So, if you meet me with your needs, please meet me with mine. Match my donation, and I will match yours when it's time. With time. Not in time, with time. No more limits. No more limitations. Let's get expansive. And being expansive means being collaborative. We can be more collaborative by paying attention to the force that we use, by paying attention to the resources that are available to us, organically speaking, our time, our space, our energy, our attention. And we must use our resources wisely and not allow them to be exploited. We are not perpetuating these systems anymore. At least I won't. I don't agree. Now, for instance, when there is an agreement made, when it means both of our needs are expressed, then we can enter the experience, that agreement. There's permission to enter an experience together, to join forces instead of forcing them, instead of implementing them without permission. So let's look at the ways in which we partner with others, which we partner with our experience, which we partner with people and situations, all of that, and recognize what forces are at play. To recognize our spaces of vulnerability, and to realize that maybe when we don't agree, that's just a space or a room for improvement, a space to dismantle something, a space to shift into a new paradigm. But you don't want that. But we can't keep leading our lives based on our attachments. Don't ask me to invest in your worth if you're not willing to invest in mine. Charity is only real when it is our calling, when we are being called to it, and not doing it from a place of attempting to prove or create a label for ourselves, to distinguish ourselves by having a certain quality. Live the quality. Live the label. Live. This is not a show and tell. This is not a performance. This is life. Live it. Stop exploiting yourself. Stop exploiting others. Recognize and play with the ways in which that is possible. How it's possible that we are, in the sneakiest of ways, perpetuating these things. That we're also saying we want to completely dismantle and leave behind. Pay attention to the language that we use, the ways in which we love. Sit with that concept of unconditional love. Because man, y'all are so conditional. Generally speaking. Because honestly, we have to start where we are. We can't just hop into something completely different. It'll be so foreign that it'll be like taking 3 steps back. And we took 1 step, 1 giant leap forward for mankind. Recognize that we have to work from where we are. We can't just say we're over there and then dismiss everything else that needs to take place or currently exists. We can't be dismissive in the dismantling. It's important to address everything that is. And when I talk about labels, it's important to address what's behind these labels, what types of actions or traumas or experiences. What is being labeled? How do we dismantle it in order to release it, in order to reach a place of equity? Instead of trying to just throw everything out the window and ignore the baggage that we're carrying. So, anyways, pay attention to pressure, pay attention to force, and the ways in which we create power plays within our day-to-day life, whether we're doing that to ourselves or to others. And as a Capricorn, as a person with a stellium in Capricorn, as a workaholic, I see the ways in which I pressure myself. I see the ways in which I perpetuate and oppress myself within these systems. I oppress myself within these systems. And I am working diligently to deprogram myself, to recognize and connect with myself in such a way to where it's like, no, that is not fair. I will not do that. I am processing that. And I am setting up new ways for people to work with me, new ways for me to work with myself, to allow myself space to expand. Because as long as I am holding this space of the workaholism, I cannot expand past that because I'm holding things where they are. So let's make room. Let that be the force that we create with. Something that is expansive. The limitations, the constrictions, the restrictions, recognize where they show up. And how can you move through them with more intention? How can you press back and counterbalance that pressure, counteract that force? It's all about balance. It's a constant balancing act. It is an active and attentive and conscious process, balance. It's not something still and stationary and stagnant. It is living. And a lot of us are existing in a place of imbalance and incongruent natures. So let's take a minute to review our actions, to review our interactions and revise them. To allow ourselves to step back and see where we're expecting something that may not give space to another person's need for space or expansion, to where perhaps we restrict someone else's expansion, to where we restrict our expansion. And that's my TED Talk. Bye.